Well, welcome to Discover Downtown. My name is David Moore, and we're really excited today to be talking about art herstory. Today, I am joined by local artist Claire Alexander. This month for Discover Downtown, we're changing up the program. Normally we're doing behind the scenes tours, taking you to new developments, new businesses, or historic places. But we really wanted to do something in celebration of Women's History Month. And so we're launching a self guided public art tour that features pieces in the Fayetteville Street District by women artists. So today I am again joined by Claire Alexander, and we're really excited to have you here, Claire. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah. So let's just get started and talk about, how did you get into art and what does your art explore?
Yeah, so I have been drawing and creating since a very young age, but painting I didn't really fully step into until 2018. It was kind of on accident. My family, I come from a family of artists. My dad's a photographer, so I've always done photography and videography, and I landed a very small gig down in Brazil after I graduated to shoot some photos and to, yeah, just have like a small art residency. And I get there, it's about 2 weeks in, and I have been working all year to save up for this trip. And I don't have a huge amount of money, but I'm would manage just to stay there for a little while. And so I'm week 2, and my camera breaks, and I'm like, I don't know. This is a sign. I don't know what to do. And the person who I was working with in the gallery was very gracious and encouraged me to explore a different art form. And so she was like, I got some clay here, I got some paint and some canvas. Just, like your slot's already booked. Just do something. And that's when I picked up the paintbrush. I picked up the brush and I have not stopped since. I think it was a redirection from the ancestors who were telling me that, this is what to be doing. And really, I started painting. I think it really came from a place of, I need to say something, I need to use my voice. And unfortunately, it's tied into a little bit of anger and rage. My whole life I've been I thought I wanted to pursue a career in environmental science. I grew up in France, in the south of France, and in the Alps. And my whole childhood, I remember just running around in the fields and being outside. I've always loved ecology. So I really wanted to pursue a career in a scientific field. But unfortunately, there's a lack of representation. And I think in academia and institutions, we're conditioned to understand nature on this side and culture on this side. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I want them to be together. And I think painting allows me to do that. And so through my art, I really explore different ecological stories, and I try to exemplify the countless times where people, communities, particularly folks of color, particularly women, are really shaping the land, and how the land in turn shapes them. So that's a little bit of a background.
Thank you for sharing that. So I'm going to just push us forward a little bit. We're going to get into this piece soon, but I just also wanted to ask, what made you want to create a piece like this?
Yeah. Okay. So I think actually, I think I applied for the Art Beats, for the Raleigh Art Beats Festival, and I got selected. And it was a brilliant opportunity to, be able to paint the sidewalks downtown. I don't know too much about Raleigh. I'm more closer to Durham. But I know downtown Raleigh is very wealthy. It's very, I don't know, it's very all up in your face. And I was like, okay, before that, I hadn't painted anything on the sidewalk. And I was like, if I'm going to be painting like something downtown in one of the biggest cities in North Carolina, I gotta share something. I gotta, like, whose land are we on? Whose wealth are we, like how are we able to build all this stuff? And it felt really important to acknowledge, the different tribes that are here. These are the 8 ones that are officially recognized. There's countless more. And it just felt really important, it just felt really important to honor them and acknowledge the land that we're on.
Exactly. And so is that, that feeling what inspired the title, Know Where You Stand, of this sidewalk mural?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's nowhere you stand, and actually on the bottom, instead of writing the names in my original concept, I wanted to write know this land. But for timing purposes and also just I think for educational purposes, I was like, let me just write the tribes, let me write the names so people know. And the spot that it's at too, it's kind of cool because there's like a little ledge, so people that are walking on, I think it's, yeah, I guess Fayetteville, that street, or Salisbury, I can't.
It's on Salisbury Street. So this,
Salisbury
for the
Street.
folks, yeah, for the folks at home, this is right outside of the Raleigh Convention Center on the corner of Salisbury and Cabarrus.
Exactly, yeah. So for folks who are walking on Salisbury, there's a little ledge, and when you come up, you can kind of see like all of it in its grandeur. And it's really exciting. When I was painting it, a lot of folks, well, at the end, a lot of folks were stopping by and just saying thank you. You know, just being like, this, I'm glad that this is here. We need to know this.
Yes. How long did it take you to complete this piece?
Yeah, it took me, I think it took me about 4 days,
Mm.
4 long days. um, yeah, and it's really fun. Honestly, the energy that exists on the street is like really like nowhere else. It's a whole ecosystem in and of itself. The people that come and just, you know, strike up a conversation, and you have to adapt to weather and noise, and yeah, it's a lot of endurance being on your hands and knees all day, but it's so fun. I really love it.
No, we love the amazing contributions that the artists in this community have given downtown. And so we're really thankful for that. I think you said a little bit ago, like this was one of your first sidewalk murals, but you are no stranger to doing public art projects, correct?
Yeah, no.
Could you tell the folks at home just, some of the places that you've created public art projects in the countries? Like I looked at your website and was just like, wow, you've done
Yeah, yeah. So I started painting in Brazil, and yeah, so I was just painting on canvas back then, and I still do that. I still do smaller pieces, but when I traveled to Colombia right after that, and in Colombia, there's a huge street art culture. So I kind of showed up with my canvases and was like, I'm interested in, you know, being a painter, doing canvas work, but they were like, all right, honey, like you got to go paint the walls here, you know, like we're not kidding. And I had really no idea what I was doing then, but it was really fun. And there's just a very, it's, yeah, there's a very lively culture that's on the streets, that's very communal, that's very much what's mine is yours. And yeah, so I started doing murals in Colombia. I've done some in Ecuador, Puerto Rico, and then the other side of the Atlantic, Scotland, France,
wow.
Morocco, and this was my first one in the U.S. actually.
Oh, wow. What an honor for Raleigh, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, just showing it from another angle. Again, you can kind of see it. This is Salisbury Street right here, and this is Cabarrus right there. So again, this is right outside of the Raleigh Convention Center if you want to go see it. When you were working on this project, like, was there any major hurdles or design challenges that you came up against?
Mm. Um, I think the longest bit for me usually with pieces is just composition. Like I'm very intentional with what I do. And so I took a lot of time to research and to read about these different tribes. And I wanted elements to be present that were significant to them. So there's the corn on the left, and then there's the longleaf pine on the right, and both of them are featured in Cherokee creation stories. But I mean, they're crops that are really important. Or I guess the corn is a crop that's really important in all indigenous stories. Then there's sorghum, there's sassafras, tobacco leaf. These are all, you know, different elements that are either culturally, spiritually significant, or that are like featured on like different flags. And it was important too to have the city up there, like the city of Raleigh. That's kind of what that symbolizes, just because we have this idea of indigenous folks being kind of in the past, but they're still here. They're all, you know, they're all over it, and living in cities, like, and so that also felt really important to include.
Yes. Thank you for telling us more about what inspired the piece. What I want to ask next is, I always love asking this question, especially to artists, because like your minds are just like amazing and the things that you all create. If budget was not an issue, what kind of public art would you create next?
Ah, that's a really good question. Yeah, I I think I would like to kind of experiment. I mean, I love paint, but I think I'd like to experiment with something more three-dimensional. I don't know, maybe do something with glass, doing something with like reflections, different stained glass colors, doing something with welding. I mean, there's so many materials that I'm learning now slowly but surely to kind of experiment with, to be more confident, to take up like some more space. I think it's really encouraging and it's really emboldening to just kind of, you know, think about the different ways that we can share stories beyond paint. Um, yeah, so I'm not sure that answers your question, but it's a really good one.
No, you answered it, and I think all of what you just said would be amazing to see one day. The great thing about Raleigh and just the triangle scene in general, what I've noticed from local artists here is that it's a big family, and like people look out for each other. And I think the cities and the county governments are starting to recognize that importance of that and starting to provide more resources and find ways to get you all together. And so like I'm just excited, as a person that handles public art projects for downtown Raleigh through the work I do at Downtown Raleigh Alliance. I'm just excited to see that community grow, and also like how some of you artists mentor each other and like really like pour into each other and to make things better. So it's an amazing thing to watch and witness.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I recently got selected to be mentored by like a public artist, like a not legit because I'm legit, but like
Sorry.
someone who has a way more experience and who's been doing like really large scale public art for a while. And that feels really awesome. I hadn't seen that anywhere else, that like the city is actually providing us with a mentor and funds and are like, we want y'all to get creative with these spaces here because we do have money, you know, for the street and for the city. How can we like lend us your minds, like please help us make this more creative. And that feels really exciting.
Yeah, the Office of Raleigh Arts is an amazing resource. And folks at home, just so you know, past doing projects in the downtown atmosphere, as a citizen, you do have the power to initiate your own kind of public art project, and that is handled through Office of Raleigh Arts, and they will help you step by step to help you complete that project. And this is one of the projects that they spearhead is the Raleigh Art Beats program. And I want to say this, with Claire being involved, I want to say this was like the third round of Raleigh Art Beats. And I think another wave is coming this spring. So we'll even have more public art on these sidewalks coming up real soon. I want to talk about a little bit just like of your process, prior to installing this mural, are you sketching it out? Can you tell us a little bit how you just go about creating your pieces?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think a lot of my inspiration definitely comes from the land, like where I'm at. A lot of people ask me, like who inspires you? And a lot of the times, I mean, people definitely do inspire me, but most of the times I do get like my inspiration from just plants and birds and animals and I don't know, like places. And the energy that they lend me, really, I think you can kind of see through the pieces that I do. And yeah, and the longest bit is always for me really composition, making sure all the colors match. And if I showed you a sketch of this piece, like it's pretty wild, but it would match almost exactly. Like I really don't like starting something and not knowing what I'm doing. I don't like wasting paint. I don't really like wasting time either. Like when it comes to this kind of stuff, I'm very, very strict. And yeah, so everything kind of like needs to make sense before I like engage full on mind, body, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So here, like this, again, this is just another picture of Claire working. How much paint did it take to pull off a project like this? A rough
Um,
estimate. I know that's one
yeah.
going out there randomly.
Yeah. So I know before painting on anything, like this, you kind of have to wash it and then prime it. So I went through 2 gallons of white paint and then I'm pretty sure 2 gallons of yellow paint for the background. Um, and then it is a lot of paint. I would say probably close to like maybe like 5 gallons. Yeah, which is crazy, but it's also, I mean, there's a beauty in the ephemerality of pieces too. Like I think the impacts of murals, they change the street, they change the neighborhood, they change the street forever. Like that's everlasting, but the mural itself fades. The mural itself will go through time. People step on it. People like it, it washes off. I love that. I love that. Like the street kind of just takes control of it, but people remember it. Like people remember the space. They remember the story. And that's why I love public art. I really also love smaller scale, small canvas stuff. And I recently had my first solo show in Durham, which went really well. But I feel that there's just a lot of beauty in creating murals, because to me they're kind of like portals. They transport you somewhere else, and I think also connecting it back to my ancestry. I'm a child of the diaspora, and I can't really go beyond my grandparents really on my dad's side, who's from the Caribbean, and whose ancestors were enslaved there. And so I think if you pinpoint every place that I've done a mural, like you can kind of follow me on a map, like as we were listing the countries, and I've only kind of made that connection recently, but I feel like, yeah, I'm trying to kind of create a map for myself or for my descendants. So people I'm leaving my trace, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great like segue to like one of the questions I like asking is, as a artist, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important, I think, the work that we do as artists. And I'm starting to just kind of reframe, like saying that I'm an artist to saying that I'm a storyteller. I mean, they both go together, but really what we need right now is just stories that connect people. Stories are bridges, between people, places, genders, race, language, all these things. It's the story. And people relate to stories. People relate to color. That was a frustration for me, when I was studying environmental science in university. I was like, you're only sharing one way for us to understand nature. It's saturated with data, with graphs, with this language that only a limited privileged few can understand. And it's making it inaccessible. These important studies that are happening, you're making it inaccessible to so many folks. So how can we like learn what's going on here and then translate it? Like, unfortunately, like we have enough data to know that change is a problem, and the planet is not doing too well. So like, instead of accumulating more and more, how can we spread out wide? And that's for me the job of the artist, is to connect, through people, and sharing those stories and making it accessible. So for me, that's the legacy.
Thank you for sharing that. A moment ago, I really like what you said about murals being a portal to something else. And I like even love this like vantage point right now, like you standing on the mural that you created and like looking down and seeing all these different elements and the different tribes that it represents. Like in a perfect world, as you go out and create more public art, what give me an example of another portal you want to take people to?
Oh, wow. um that's a good question. I mean, I think it is just so important to really see and understand, for me in my head, just community, people and places, like together. For people who are interested in looking at more of my work, I work a lot with portraits, and I do a lot of creative things with hair and with plants and with flowers, like a lot of them kind of growing out of the hair, being perched in ways that are very eloquent and elaborate. Yeah, I think that's just to kind of show, the impact that we've had, that people have had on places, and that places have had on people. And that, thinking that, like, trying to remove humans from, a lot of this discourse around climate change, are really framing humans and people as being destructive and being like the problem on this planet. I really don't think that's the right way to frame it. I think there's really so many beautiful ways that we can act together, right? There's so many different examples of that, particularly in indigenous stories, and that's why I really am so fascinated by them. So I think, yeah, if I could, I would keep sharing portals of the ways that we celebrate our identity, the ways that we can exist beyond constraints of borders, of gender, of race, and because really, we're on this beautiful planet of abundance, and that's really what we should be celebrating.
I'm with you on that. So we're gonna start to like wrap this up. One of the things I also want to ask is, how can we as a community support you as a working, practicing artist?
Yeah, that's also a good question. I am still at a point right now where I don't want to sell any of my pieces. I just had the solo show and there was about 10 pieces in there. None of them were for sale. Because I think I'm trying to step away from like the commodification of art and the objectification of them. Because once again, I really do see them as stories. And so, yeah, so I'm not really making any money off of selling direct pieces. Not yet. I'm trying to like without contributing to a market that is really really commodifying art, and also yeah, just putting the pressure to produce more and more. I'm really trying to step out of that. And so yeah, I guess I'm trying to find ways that people can support me as a storyteller, once again, as like a community, um I don't like a community painter. I love doing projects with folks. I really love doing projects with folks, going into different neighborhoods and like seeing what we can make happen, seeing how art can literally transform places and people, bring them together. That's really how I, kind of like to sell myself as like an experimental archivist. I don't know. But also, yeah, please just interact with the work. That's why it's there. Like, I don't want it necessarily to be sold or seen as produce, but I want you to feel something from it, and you do. And a lot of each one of my paintings has a different like blurb attached to it that kind of walks you through composition. What are the different plants that are there? Why are they there? Why do they matter? So really, through my work, I'm trying to kind of set up like yeah, it's just part celebration, of like all the amazing, incredible ancestors, community organizers, black women whose names we don't know, who have like literally changed our lives for better. But it's also kind of like a botanical guidebook. I'm trying to really once again merge like science and art together. So yeah, I'll let y'all kind of interact with it, and then hit me up and see what you think.
Yeah, so we included Claire's Instagram and website. Please reach out to her if you have any questions, want to commission her, just interact with her about the amazing work she's doing. Claire, thank you so much for being here today. Really thankful to have you a part of this conversation about, women in public art, and increasing that representation in downtown, and, making sure you all are getting the acknowledgement that you deserve. So again, thank you for being here. But before we leave, I just want to say thank you to our Discover Downtown sponsors who help us put on this program monthly. I'm really appreciative to these different companies that contribute to Downtown Raleigh Alliance. We encourage you to stay connected and support Downtown Raleigh in any way you can. You can follow us on social media. You can also sign up for our weekly newsletter that features, information about downtown, businesses, openings, anything related to downtown, we have it there. You can also go to our website, to the Discover Downtown page, to access that self-guided public art tour that I was referencing. And again, that tour we're launching this month features public artworks created by women in the Fayetteville Street District. So there's going to be 16 different stops that you can check out in this one place. And then you can also go to our blog to learn about women-owned businesses to support in downtown Raleigh. And make sure you're also doing it past Women's History Month. We really need to make sure that we're constantly supporting people in our community and our small business community. So please do what you can. But we'll see you at the next tour, and we really appreciate you being here today. Have a good one, everyone.